Once, Indonesia was the recipient of a rescue package worth $23 billion from the IMF, a bitter pill the country had to swallow for the next decade that followed. Today, Indonesia's economy is relatively healthy and its financial institutions more or less stable. It had not been easy, but lessons had been learned, and the country is careful not to repeat past fiscal mistakes. Indonesia is now one of the emerging economies and a member of the G20. The country's GDP was worth $846.8 billion in 2011, and with a growth rate of 6.4% in the second quarter of this year. But the world too is now a different place, with the threat of a global economic crisis looming large.
What can it teach? I mean, Indonesia is now part of the G20. Do you think it can play a much bigger role in the global stage, especially when it comes to dealing with some of the global problems and issues that we're facing?
You know, there is one key word, two key words. Number one, all countries are connected and none is immune. That's number one. But number two, there is a rebalancing that we are seeing happening, particularly in this part of the world. When you see that China's current account is completely different from what it was prior to the crisis. It is rebalancing. It has moved from being extremely positive to being slightly positive, and that's good because it shows that the domestic economy is getting stronger as opposed to an economy that was essentially driven by export. In the same vein, your president has a strategy for the development of Indonesia that will be based on domestic market developments, opening up to investment, including foreign direct investment, making sure that the infrastructure projects are delivered upon, not just talked about. And those are really promising evolutions, if you will, in order to rebalance and make sure that it covers all the potential edges.
Okay, the word immune, with a global crisis at the moment, but with this side of the world, actually we've been seeing sort of positive growth, unlike what we see in the advanced economies. And do you think Indonesia can be immune, or will we be at some point be affected by the global crisis? And if so, what needs to be done in order to strengthen our economic health?
Well, many of the advanced economies have been going through a crisis of some sort since, say, 2007. And the dynamic emerging market economies, such as Indonesia, have fared exceptionally well throughout this financial crisis, as we called it. This crisis is lasting quite a long time, and the recovery as we see it now is fairly tepid in most advanced economies. So in order to continue to be as protected as possible, I think that the strategy of your president, which consists of really making sure that the domestic market is vibrant, that there is quality investment coming into the country, that there are strong relationships, including trade relationships, between countries of this part of the world, with links to other emerging market economies as well, particularly in Latin America, which is far away and yet going through the same sort of development as this region. I think those are really good proposals to try to avoid the consequences and the sort of collateral effects of the crisis that affects Europe at the moment.
But are you optimistic that Indonesia can do that? Are we on the right track in terms of, you know, our financial institutions, our fiscal policies? Because recently, you know, unfortunately, Indonesia has been sort of judged as, you know, a failed country, and it could do much better given the resources and the sort of the wealth that we have. What do you say to that?
Well, anybody can do better, you know, that which is great. But we've just gone through a review of the economy, and frankly, our assessment is that the economy is solid, that the fiscal policy has been attentive to keeping the public finance under control, and we hope that the country can do better. We hope that the economy can continue to grow solidly, sustainably, inclusively, continuing to create jobs. But you know, no one should beat their chest when things are heading in the right direction, which is the case for Indonesia.
But are we in a position, for example, to say lend the IMF money towards solving some of the crisis?
I think the partnership between the IMF and Indonesia has been solid. What I told you, President, is that it was important for all dynamic emerging economies, such as Indonesia, to have more say, more voice in international institutions such as the IMF. And as far as financial contributions, financial role, well, clearly the emerging market economies are going to play a bigger role in the future, because their role in the economy is getting bigger.
Despite Indonesia's respectable economic performance after China and India, however, economic crisis in Europe and the US is in danger of affecting the entire global economy, and that includes Indonesia. I asked Minister of Trade Gita Wirjawan whether the country has reasons to be worried.
In terms of our immunity here in Indonesia, particularly, for example, if they stop buying our exports, I mean, are we ready? Can we be immune, or will we be affected?
We're not ready if they stop buying our goods and services. Nobody will be ready. I mean, here is a $17 trillion economy for the whole European Union, compared to $15 trillion for the US, and Indonesia is a mere $1.1 trillion. There's nobody in the world that's going to be immune from whatever, bad scenarios that will play out of Europe, which is why everybody around the world wants to seek and obtain a quick resolution to the crisis. I think a stronger Europe is what we need and is what the world needs. We take a look at our exports last year, a very small portion, relatively, of our total exports related to Europe. But all the other markets that we sent our goods and services to are actually markets that would have been a lot more dependent, if not interdependent, with us and Europe. So I think this theory of immunity doesn't hold water completely.
Having said that, how to mitigate some of the impact domestically? I mean, as a Minister of Trade, do you have some kind of plans? I mean, after all, we're not a small country. Surely we can do more in terms of increasing our own domestic trade and domestic consumption.
There are. If you take a look at the economy within Indonesia, I mean, I think investment has been pretty robust, and I think it'll continue to be robust. And when I talk about investment, we don't just talk about the short-term investing phenomena, the portfolio investing. It's rather the real sector investment, which I think will continue to be robust. As long as we tell the world that our policy postures are correct, and we basically nurture the business community the right way. Second, I think the role of the government spending. The government, I think, has been pretty proactive in, collecting taxes and managing the fiscal stance, not just prudently, but I think more wisely. That, I think, will pan out in better government spending scenarios going forward. The third is really the consumption part, which is about 55 to 60% of the GDP. I think at the rate that we continue to see robust investments and government spendings, consumptions will continue in a rather robust manner. So these three are probably the parts of the equation that we can somewhat control to a lot of extent.